tonight on the Final Play. The Saints are in full pads and are already hitting full stride early in training camp.
We had a couple good periods. I thought they played well.
We'll examine the impact that Michael Thomas's absence is having with Jeff Duncan.
All the other players see that and they say, look, if Mike Thomas doesn't get paid, then I'm not going to get paid.
Plus, Drew Brees is fending off Father Time while Taysom Hill is taking the next steps in his evolution at quarterback. We've got everything you need to know about the black and gold, including who's got a challenge ahead and who's making it look easy.
From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Final Play, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers, built Ford tough, and by Ron Austin Law.
Welcome into the Final Play. I'm Juan Kincaid. There are those that believe that Saints training camp doesn't begin until the pads go on. Well, today the pads went on, but even that wasn't enough to get Michael Thomas onto the field as he remains a holdout. Sean Vazan gets us started tonight.
For 3 days, the Saints have practiced at training camp. And for 3 days, the biggest storyline has been who isn't there. Star wide receiver Michael Thomas is still absent. Thomas wants a new contract and won't report until he gets one. It is what it is, seems to be the mindset of his teammates as they work without him.
Contract is part of this game, our contract negotiations, and so we'll let this play out, but confident that there'll be an agreement reached at some point, and when there does, then he'll be back and we'll be ready to roll.
It's the business side of football. Everybody has to understand their own situation, and at the end of the day, you want to be valued by your team, not only your team, but you have a value within yourself, and you know what you can get and what you want, and that's for two sides to come together to agreement. I'm going to focus on being the best I can be. I'm going to wish Mike T the best that he can be.
It's not my point. It's not my action to really say it's good or bad or they need to hurry up or not. Like, you know what I'm saying? The thing is as an older guy and then being the older guy in my room and us having kind of the problem right now is to keep my young guys and myself and the coaches ready to go and hands-on with those guys. And once Mike come back in, he's going to get picked right up to speed and we're going to take off.
General Manager Mickey Loomis is the man in charge of getting a deal done, one that satisfies his star but also works for the organization. Loomis says ideally his team would not be in this predicament.
It bothers me because, look, it's a reflection on, the job that we do. And in a perfect world, this would be done, and we'd both feel either real good about it or both feel real bad about it. and he'd be in here working. And look, one thing I know Mike Thomas wants to be here, so it's not a question of him not wanting to be here.
Loomis called the negotiations professional, but when it comes to a timeline for when something could get worked out, he wouldn't commit.
Look, you always get asked, hey, are you close? Are you close? I can tell you when we're a long ways apart. It's hard for me to tell you when we're close. I think we're close when I see the player in Kai's office with a document in front of him. Then I can tell you we're close.
Pleased to be joined now by Jeff Duncan, columnist for The Athletic. And Jeff, why don't we start with the big story heading into camp? Michael Thomas, 3 days in, still not here. Right now, it's not a big issue, but if we were still having this conversation, say, next Sunday, then it would be. Where did things stand, and what is your impression to the holdout right now?
Well, look, I think they're close. I think eventually this deal is going to get done. I think everybody's motivated to get it done, but it's a big deal, Sean. I mean, what I mean by that is the numbers are big. This is the largest contract that's been negotiated by Mickey Loomis and the Saints other than the Drew Brees deals. So because of the enormity of the amount of money we're talking about, maybe potentially $20 million a year on average, they've got to look long term. And so Mickey Loomis, while he wants Mike Thomas here and he knows that Sean Payton and the rest of the Saints want Mike Thomas here, he's got to think 4 and 5 years down the road about the roster and the cap management. And there's just too much on the line for him to rush into this. And I think he's taken the appropriate care. And we all know Mickey Loomis. He's done a lot of contracts over the years. He's going to give what he thinks is a fair number, a market value for Michael Thomas, and he wants to reward him. Look, he's the exact kind of guy you reward. Yes. He's done everything asked of him. He's been durable. He plays every week. He produces, but he has to look and keep his eye on the ball down the road because they've got a lot of other big deals coming up with Alvin Kamara, Ryan Ramczyk, Marshawn Lattimore, Sheldon Rankins. All these guys are quality players at their positions. You could argue they're in the top 5 to 10 players in the league at their position. They got to get paid too. So he's thinking of the bigger picture, not just Mike Thomas.
And I know you've had some conversation with sources. There's no debate on whether or not he deserves to be the highest paid receiver in the NFL, right? I mean, that's pretty much agreed on by all parties, right?
No, you're right. Look, he's going to end up being the highest paid receiver in the league. Now, how long that lasts?
Right.
Because Julio Jones and some of these other elite receivers are also out there. But I think that matters to Mike Thomas. I think Mike Thomas cares about those things. That's the same drive that's made him the great player he is, and transferred him from a second-round pick into an all-pro receiver, the first all-pro receiver in the history of this organization. So the Saints want to reward him. They know that that's important to reward him in this locker room.
Yes.
Because all the other players see that, and they say, look, if Mike Thomas doesn't get paid, then I'm not going to get paid. So they're aware of that, and I think eventually this gets done. I think what's going on right now is just minute details, trying to come to a win-win deal for the organization and for Mike Thomas. Sometimes those details are what drag this thing out another week or so.
And last kind of follow-up to that, I mean, do you have a realistic timetable when you think this may get done?
No, I don't. I think it'll get done when it gets done. I think Mickey Loomis is not going to budge off what he thinks is fair. And I think that is what is coming into play right here, is Mickey Loomis is saying, this is going to be good. I want something that's good for the New Orleans Saints long term, not just for Mike Thomas. And he's not going to budge off that number. My experience with Mickey has always been he's going to give what he thinks is fair, and he's not going to go beyond that because he's got to think big picture.
And he doesn't flinch. He's pretty patient when it comes to negotiations.
Good poker player.
Okay, let's talk about the players that are here. This team as a whole, I know a quote-unquote hangover with the way last season ended has been kind of a popular narrative, maybe a little more outside of New Orleans than maybe inside New Orleans. But mindset-wise, have you seen the right mindset on the field since training camp has begun?
Well, one thing I've noticed is I feel like this is a very business-like camp.
Absolutely.
There's not a lot of motivational gimmicks that are needed with this team. This is a veteran team. It's a young veteran team. In other words, the players are in their third years, second, third, fourth years, but it's the perfect prime position for a lot of these players. They don't need Sean Payton to get them motivated. Right. They've won a lot of games. They've had a lot of success. They've been on the precipice of the Super Bowl. They right now, I think, just need to put the work in. The process takes care of itself. And I feel like that hangover that we hear about a lot is a mental thing. Right. If you've followed the Saints for a while, if you followed Drew Brees and Sean Payton, you know how these guys are wired. They don't need motivation. They know what's at stake. The process itself is going to take care of this team as far as them getting ready for that opening stretch, which is going to be tough. So I feel like this team is ready to play a game right now. I feel like this camp is strictly the process they have to go through to get prepared for the season. But mentally, I think their eyes are on the opener against the Texans.
Absolutely. That's the perfect way to put it. Business, like I was going to say, matter of fact, straightforward, not a lot of rah-rah, just get in, get the work done, get on to the next day. I think that's a perfect way to describe it. Okay, pads on today. My eyes immediately went to the center of the offensive line. Eric McCoy has been getting a ton of first-team reps there. He got a lot of reps there again today. How would you describe McCoy's effort today?
Well, he looked good. I mean, we didn't see a lot of some of the botched snaps that we've seen, some of the little technical things that have, risen from time to time of a guy that spent all of his time in a shotgun offense in college. That's going to be a little bit of a learning curve for him, but I think it's pretty clear the Saints want him to win this job. They're not going to hand it to him. He's going to have to earn it. But he's going to get every opportunity to do that. I think it's his job to lose. I think they really like Nick Easton. I think they like Cameron Tom. I think this team is very deep on the interior offensive line. There's depth there. They're going to cross-train those guys, and I think they're going to end up being a lot like Senio Kelementi was here, a guy you can plug and play no matter what happens along the offensive line. I think it's one of the strengths of this team. I think Eric McCoy, you can see the physical talent he has. He's just more physically talented than the other guys. The learning curve is going to be mentally for him to try and get up to snuff in this very complex, sophisticated playbook the Saints have.
Yeah, there was one rep that stands out to me. It was Malcolm Brown, another defensive tackle they signed this offseason, a seasoned veteran. He really flattened him on the ground on one of the reps during one of the team periods. Okay, it's training camp. It's early training camp, so it's overreaction season. But for 3 days, we've seen a young wide receiver make play after play after play. His name is Emmanuel Butler, number 17. Look, you got to give it to him. He's stepping up.
Yeah, and every year, you're right, we all fixate on one guy and the hype train gets rolling. But Emmanuel Butler has just continued to do it. I mean, you and I were talking off camera about how we don't want to jump to conclusions, so we've both been kind of slow to warm to him. We didn't want to jump to a quick conclusion. I mean, it's too obvious right now. He's a very versatile receiver. That's the thing I like about him. I think they can use him in a bunch of different positions along the offensive sets. And he's a guy that I think knows the passing game very well. He's very sophisticated in learning this offense, which is the biggest part of it. I mean, trying to be on the same page with Drew Brees, a guy that's been in this offense for 14 years now, is difficult for a rookie. They put a lot on their plate, and he continues to produce. And now he's going to have to do it and continue to do it in the preseason games that come up. But I think there's a lot of confidence in this young receiving core, not just Emmanuel Butler. Some of these other young prospects, we're seeing Keith Kirkwood make plays, Cyril Grayson's making some plays, and I think that's why we didn't see the Saints in this offseason rush out and try and sign some veteran free agents, because I think they feel good about the potential of these guys.
And obviously they're taking advantage of some of the opportunities with Michael Thomas out. They're getting a lot more first-team reps. Okay, a position battle. We talked about center, but another one on the defensive side of the ball is at nickel. But at least for the first few days of practice, it's been P.J. Williams' job when they're in that nickel package. But that should be a good competition.
I think it's going to be the biggest competition at camp now, because I really feel like McCoy's going to win that center job. I think we can't say who's going to win the nickel job right now. I think Patrick Robinson is a guy that's probably taking the second-team reps just because of seniority. P.J. was the guy last year. But I think it's going to come down to preseason games, how they perform every day in practice. It's a good problem to have. You've got two experienced players, two veteran guys. And I wouldn't rule out Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in there. I mean, they like this kid, this rookie from Florida. He's playing all over the defensive backfield. He's a versatile chess piece for Dennis Allen. They've got a little more depth there than they've had in the past, and they're going to need it because that position tends to have some attrition during the season.
All right, we'll leave it at that. He is Jeff Duncan from The Athletic. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Sean.
We're just getting started here on the Final Play. Coming up is Father Time chasing Drew Brees. Garland Gillen catches up with the future Hall of Famer as he begins his 19th season in the NFL. And just in case you're wondering, here's the preseason schedule. The first kickoff is August 9th with the Saints hosting the Minnesota Vikings. August 18th has the team on the road in LA to face the Chargers. On the 24th, they'll be in New York to take on the New York Jets, and they'll wrap up the preseason play on the 28th at home against the Miami Dolphins. The Vikings, Jets, and Dolphins games can only be seen live right here on Fox 8.
You're watching The Final Play.
Remember when the Saints were at the Greenbrier in West Virginia and Drew Brees said he wanted to play until he was at least 45 years old? Well, that was 5 years ago, and now the 40-year-old Brees still appears to be going just as strong. But is he looking over his shoulder for Father Time? Here's Garland Gillen.
Drew Brees is entering year 19 in the NFL, and it appears he's yet to slow down. Number 9 admitted in past training camps he feels 10 years younger. And at 40 years old now, who could disagree?
That's really what it is. It's just finding ways to stay young, feel young, recover, be as efficient. Just be as efficient as possible. Having the body operate as efficient as possible. Doing all the little things that are going to help me be as accurate as possible. Be as quick as possible. Just all those little things.
Father Tom will sooner or later get to Brees, but the QB isn't going down without a monumental fight.
I study all that stuff. Again, I feel like I'm pretty aware of what you lose with the aging process, right? And so everything I do from a training perspective, recovery perspective, is to combat that, right? And so you just try to stay ahead of that curve, right? Stay ahead of that curve. And so far, it feels, I feel like I'm beating it.
Brees is a surefire Hall of Famer and a football savant, but he continues to stay humble as the accolades pile up.
By no means have I arrived, you know. I had a coach tell me, as long as you're green, you will continue to grow, but as soon as you are ripe, you will soon be rotten, right? So as soon as you think you know it all, you're done, right? So I'm still green. I still got things to learn.
Brees is the second oldest starting quarterback in the league. 6-time champ Tom Brady is 41.
I don't know. Between him and Tom Brady, at this point, it's just a battle of attrition, right? I mean, they're just seeing who's going to outlast the other. They're going to play till they're 50, 55. And, I mean, throwing technique's still there. You know, intermediate routes is always going to be there. The mind is what sets them apart. And there's not too many minds like Drew Brees. So, I mean, until he decides to set him up, we're always happy to have one of the best to do it.
Man, he's the GOAT. That's all I can tell you. I think he found the fountain of youth. He doesn't slow down, and he's the most ultimate competitor, and it just makes us better every day going against a Hall of Fame player like that. And if we mess him up, that's a great job. That means we can mess up the whole league because not everybody's him. And just going against him every day makes the back end better, and that's what we look forward to every day.
From Metairie, Garland Gillen, Fox 8, Local First.
Up next on the Final Play, it's Taysom time. Does the Saints' Swiss Army knife ever want to be under center full time?
Fox 8's Final. You're watching the Final Play.
Taysom Hill gave play calling a fresher feel for Sean Payton. All of a sudden, the Saints head coach had a multi-talented athlete that could also play quarterback to draw plays for in the sand. But is that the role that Taysom sees himself in long term? Chris Hagan went looking for answers.
From the outside looking in, it's easy to blur the line between Taysom Hill, the quarterback, and Taysom Hill, the utility specialist. But for the former BYU Cougar, his vision remains clear. And as a result of growing in all areas of his game, Hill is indeed improving as a passer.
I feel a lot more confident, playing inside the offense right now than I did last year, and then obviously rookie year coming here. I think the progression as a quarterback, you get more time on task inside the offense and you get more confidence.
Which in turn has led his coaches to have more confidence in him.
His grasp of the offense, his ability to take the play into the huddle, out to the line of scrimmage, get us in the right play. I thought he threw the ball, pretty well the last couple of days. So, and then the things that are harder to see are the things that can happen in a game when a play breaks down and he can advance it. But he's doing well.
While training camp is definitely a grind, testing players both mentally and physically, Hill says it's a time of the year that he typically enjoys more than most, mainly because it's one of few chances he has to focus more on his natural position.
I feel like Coach Payton, Coach Lombardi, Coach Carmichael, they've made it very clear that, hey, when we get to OTAs, when we get to training camp, we want, you focused on playing quarterback. We care a lot about your progression at that position. And then as we get to the season, the focus obviously turns to game planning, making sure Drew is comfortable with the game plans going into it. And then at that point, I get to, make sure that I'm ready to go at other positions. And honestly, I haven't felt any frustration that way. And it's been fun because I've been involved in all the game planning from week to week.
And that, to Hill, means a lot, that Coach Payton took a chance on him, not just as a quarterback, but as a player. And so far, it's worked out pretty well. Reporting on the Saints, I'm Chris Hagan for the Final Play.
Up next, we go around the NFC South for camp check-ins on the Panthers, Falcons, and Bucs. And remember, for more Saints talk, check out episode 45 of the Fox 8 Overtime podcast. We get in-depth on today's first workout in pads. In episode 44, what to make of Michael Thomas's decision to hold out. You can find our podcast on fox8live.com, the Final Play and Tiger Huddle apps, and of course, wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Now for your play of the week, sponsored by Ron Austin Law.
Our play of the week, and we had a bunch to choose from, comes from the arm of Drew Brees and into the waiting hands, the soft hands, by the way, of tight end Jared Cook. He had to go up and get this one. This is going to be a fun tandem to watch this season, and it's a big reason why it's our play of the week. Now time to crisscross the NFC South with stops in all of the training camps. First up, the Carolina Panthers. And they're all smiles there with the return of Cam Newton to the practice field. The quarterback recently underwent his second shoulder surgery in the last 3 years, with this surgery being needed to clean up some scar tissue from the first surgery. Newton is on a pitch count from now until the season gets underway.
Everything that we've been told and everything that we saw really just pointed to him being ready to go, and I think it did a lot for not just us, but I know it did a lot for him. Just uncorking one like he did, just letting it go. And he's one of those dynamic guys that players will get behind, players will follow, and when you see him go out and do things that he did today, it's pretty exciting, and it bodes very well for us.
In Atlanta, the Falcons returned to camp with one clear goal, building the right way towards the playoffs, something Atlanta missed out on last season. You know, it could be argued that the Falcons have more offensive weapons than anyone else in the NFC South. They certainly have plenty of firepower around quarterback Matt Ryan. Question is, can they pull it all together when it counts?
As a team, we motivated. Together, we motivated. And we want a lot out there for us. We know we're a good team. We got what it takes to get the job done. We know that it's up to us to put the work in and day out. And I feel like it's going to come down to us holding each other accountable and basically just doing it, not talking about it.
We have the talent, like you said, and now we have to get to talented as a whole team. And that's just going to come from hard work and grinding out there on the grass every day and actually having a purpose for why we're going to work.
And over in Tampa, a former LSU Tiger is turning heads in his rookie camp. Devin White has already been showing off the kind of leadership that the Bucs coaching staff expected when they drafted him in the first round. He's even caught the attention of Bucs quarterback Jameis Winston.
It heads with Devin White. The guy's a hard worker and he's a great leader. So they're going to follow his footsteps. And there's no age limit on leadership. You know, so we definitely bring him on in, come be a day one, be a leader and do what you do best. And those other guys are going to follow suit and just do their job the best they possibly can.
I mean, I always been in like big roles, like in my life, like everything I did, like I always kind of like grew up faster than probably what I should have, but I think it helped me. You know, I wasn't a guy who sat around and played video games all day. I was a guy, you know, who was kind of working, kind of trying to make my own cash and stuff. So, I mean, I always just been that guy. I mean, I'm going to keep being that guy. And, you know, I always had a lot of pressure on me, and I always did good with it. So I'm very, like, comfortable with myself and knowing my abilities. So, you know, the minute, you know, when Coach B.A. told me after rookie minicamp, he was like, all right, the vets come Monday, and I'm going to put the green dot on your helmet. I didn't know what a green dot was, and then once I just put the helmet on, I heard Coach Ty talking through the helmet. I'm like, oh, man, like, you know, they did put a lot of responsibility on me, but I feel like I asked for it, and I feel like I can handle it, you know. I never shy away from nothing because I don't feel like it's nothing in the world that's too big for, you know, myself.
Our camp coverage of the Saints continues all week long. And remember, our Saints-themed shows on Tuesday and Thursday. Fox 8 Overtime on Tuesday night. And on Thursdays, we bring you Training Camp Game Plan. Both shows all about the Saints. Both get underway at 10:35. And that's our show for tonight. For all of us here at Fox 8, I'm Juan Kincaid. We hope you'll join us again next Sunday night for the Final Play.
From Fox 8 Sports, this has been the Final Play. Sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers, built Ford tough. And by Ron Austin Law.